Hey everybody, I have a sponsor. It is Sagen Financial Group. They have this product called Relax Tax by Sagen Financial Group, and what you do is you submit your tax info online and it gets processed by one of their specialists. No unnecessary appointments, no calls unless you request one, completely on your schedule. And best of all, the listeners of the KAAMP get a 10% off code for Relax Tax by Sagen Financial Group. Just go to relaxtax.com. That is RELAXEDTAX.com and use coupon code KAAMP in the tax client intake form. Sagen Financial Group is in Chattanooga and they serve all 50 states. And part of the proceeds will go to directly supporting the KAAMP podcast. And I think that's awesome. So I'll put the link in the show notes. Just remember the KAAMP is your coupon code for 10% off for the Relax Tax by Sagen Financial Group. Also, thank you for listening, and I really appreciate it. A good group of people is always super important when you're traveling or trying to have a good time. The headspace and the setting are always super important. My first route, I camped next to some people from Canada. They had some Toronto tags on their car, and I was like, "Hey guys, how long was the drive to get here?" And they're like, "Oh, it was 14 hours, and it was a blast." I was like, "Guys, I need you to know I drove 4 hours, and it was hell."
Yeah, the past 5 years that I've gone, I've driven from Dallas, so 11 hours each way.
Screw that. No thanks.
Well,
sounds terrible.
It's so worth it. But now that I'm living here, I can go easily like 3 hours, and it'll be awesome.
Well, that's like all the trips to the caverns in Pelham. You know, when I go down there, it seems like once a quarter.
Yeah, definitely since it's there, I've been trying to plan a trip down there.
You definitely should. And if there's a weekend run of shows that you want to hear, you should definitely camp for the weekend because it's a good spot.
Yeah, I know that it's a John Summit that's coming in soon.
Yeah, he's doing a weekend run
for
sure, and that'll be primo.
Yeah, I was looking at that, and I'm very interested. Might make it down there.
I've seen shows in the cave and at the amphitheater. STS9 did their weekend run last November at the amphitheater and killed it. And then Pretty Lights did their 3-night run at the amphitheater too, and they did like some special after party stuff in the cave that you had to like get a lottery into to get a ticket. It's super exclusive stuff.
That sounds really fun.
Yeah. Well, I didn't go. I only went one night, but I can imagine it was a blast.
Yeah,
from
for sure.
From the time that I had outside on the lawn of the amphitheater. But I'll go ahead and get into the spiel here, and we can start this party. Hello, everybody. My name is Thomas. This is KAAMP. That is the Knoxville Area Artist Networking Platform podcast thing. And today we're in a place where I wouldn't normally record, but that's just fine. And this is a letterpress studio in the Arts and Architecture building at UT. This is a curveball for the day's plans, but that is just fine because we're making it work. And friend, if you would introduce yourself, we can kick this ball.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Shannon Ferguson. I'm originally from Dallas, Texas, but I'm currently a first-year graduate student in the printmaking program here at UT. I did my undergrad at Syracuse University, so up in New York, and so I've kind of been all around, but I'm happy to be here.
Hell yeah. So if you can take us a little bit through your artistic journey up until this point, where would it start?
Pretty early. Art was really important to me as I was a kid. Like, I was always drawing. I was always going to like summer camps, art camps, and then when I got to middle school, I started to really like realize, oh hey, I'm pretty good at this, and I had really great teachers that supported me all through like high school. I did AP portfolios, and then when I was deciding to go to college for art, I was originally intending to go for art ed, so art education, specifically because I was so inspired by all my teachers. I was like, I want to do that. I want to inspire people and like students to keep going. the way that they had done to me. And then when I got to college, I realized, oh, hey, I don't know, maybe I realized that I might not want to teach as young as like original art ed programs kind of aim towards, so like elementary art. But like then I switched over to studio art, so just kind of generic studio art, and then I found printmaking, which really drew me in and captured me, and now I'm hooked, and now I'm here in the printmaking program. I graduated in 2020 from undergrad, and so now I'm here. It's been a ride, yeah.
So what were the mediums you started with when you were a child?
Paint.
Paint?
Yeah.
Tempera, acrylic?
Acrylic. So my high school AP portfolio was all acrylic portraits. And I was like, I'm a painter. Here we go. I'm going to do this forever. And then I got into college and I was like, I did a few paintings and I was like, these are great. And then I got bored and I was like, I can do this, I guess. But like, I want to learn things. And so I took on printmaking because I had never really done it before. I'd done it a couple of times in high school, but I hated it. Every time I did it, I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this project. They always turned out bad.
So what about it then didn't you jive with? Or was it how it was presented to you maybe?
I don't know if it was how it was presented, but I think where I was at the time, I was like, when I was in high school, I was like doing so many different things. I danced, I was in like choir, I was in art, I was doing 80 bajillion AP classes. And so I wanted something that like I knew how to do and I knew the steps. But then when I got to college, I was like in this new space where I had like time to think about. I was really just doing art and I liked the time it took. Like printmaking is a very time consuming practice. And especially the way that I work, I will either like carve blocks, and so that's like very time consuming. And that's not even like, even when you're done carving, you're not even done yet. Right. You still have to print the whole edition. So that was something that like rocked my world and was completely new. And I was like I was all in.
So once you became immersed in the process.
Yeah. I find the process super meditative, like the repetitive action of both like the carving and then printing. Like it's a process. There's like rules. Like there's not as many rules in relief or intaglio as there is like with lithography. Like that's a science that I fully don't understand yet. We're getting there. I'll eventually get to that point, but yeah, it's just something that like is consistent and I know what I'm doing and the process kind of like is automatic or like it's very physical, which I like a lot.
The moving meditation, it's like you knew I was going to ask this. So where in this process do you like to spend the most of your time?
The carving.
The carving?
Yeah. Like right now I have, I think it's 6 or 7 blocks that I'm currently carving right now, and they'll all be printed for an animation that I'm working on. Mm-hmm. But I've been carving them for weeks, just trying to get them done so I can print them. But at the same time, I'm enjoying carving them. Yeah. And so I'm almost taking my time so that when I get to the printing, I'll be like, oh, it's done now. I have to start something new.
So what scale do you normally work in?
Well, it depends. I like to work big. When I was in undergrad, I took, like Syracuse does a steamroller event. Mm-hmm. I don't think Knoxville specifically has had a steamroller fest here yet. I know that there's some talk about one maybe in the fall, which would be really exciting. But basically a steamroller print is like a construction steamroller that acts as the printing press, so you can make really large blocks and print them using the steamroller.
That's the kind of ridiculous that I'm so here for.
Yeah, and it's great because it's like a community spectacle. Like when we did it in my undergrad, we had like a whole setup on the quad of our campus, and there would be people just walking past, and it was this huge thing. There was like 20 of us. There's always like clean hands people who take care of the prints, and then there's like
everybody else.
I was rolling up, so I was like covered in ink that whole day. But like I was inking up, and then there was like printing people that would put all the fabric down. But that block that I made there was 3 foot by 7 foot.
Yeah, that's not small.
Yeah, no. And so that made me realize that like, oh hey, I like to work big. I like the sense of scale, and also the way that you can create space with large prints.
Yeah.
And so after I graduated, I got some larger blocks, and I was doing a residency, and so I was carving these large blocks in this residency, but I had no press. I had nowhere to print them. So I printed them all by hand, which would take like, to roll them up and print them, like 2-ish hours per print.
So you had your work cut out for you, so to speak.
Yeah. And then, like, in the past couple years, I found a studio called Art Space Untitled. It's in Oklahoma City, and they do a steamroller fest.
Ooh.
And so the past 2 years, obviously I'm here, so I won't be doing it this year. But the past 2 years, I did their steamroller fest and carved blocks for that. So those were 2 foot by 2 foot blocks, which are big, but like not huge. But now that I'm here and we have a giant press, we have like a 5 foot by 10 foot press down in the print shop.
Stoked about that, huh?
Yeah. I came for my tour, and they like showed it to me in the grad room, and I was like, oh, I'm going to use that. I still haven't yet, but
it's on the list.
It's on the list of things. I just haven't. That'll probably be my summer project, is to get a big block and get that carved, ready to print. Just like in our semester, we're always like rolling. There's always like make. We got to make lots of work, and so doing big stuff is not super productive.
Right. Your time management doesn't allow for it.
Yeah. So I would love to be making like tons of like 3 foot by 7 foot blocks, but I don't have enough time right now. So I've been kind of working medium-ish scale, 18 to 24 and smaller-ish right now.
Ish.
Yeah.
So how many projects do you have on the plate right now?
Currently?
Yeah.
I am working, so this print that's here in the letterpress shop is one that I am in the process of working on. So I'm working on that one. I'm working on an animation with all those other blocks, which is a combination of 2D animation made in Procreate and stop motion using the printed image.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. And then I'm also working on a big digital installation. I installed that one for our grad reviews, which was on Friday, and that one was 60 inches by 66 inches, so that one's pretty big.
Yeah.
But it's a bunch of like digital pieces put together. But yeah, and then probably some other one that I'm forgetting.
Right, because there's always one or two that you forget.
Yeah.
In this scenario. So where do you find the hitch in your giddy up in this process? Is there anything about this type of work that frustrates you more than the rest of the process?
Getting my like concepts to read.
Oh yeah.
Because sometimes I think way too complicated about what I'm wanting to say, and so sometimes the pieces that work the best are the ones that I put like least amount of effort into. Yeah. And then the ones that I like labor hours and hours on, they're like, I don't know if it reads, but I don't know. So yeah, a lot of my work is about comfort and discomfort, using kind of split off into 2 branches, one being about like physical comfort and pain. I have fibromyalgia, so that's something that I'm always thinking about, that like search for comfort and that search for like relief from pain is like not always attainable. And so that's something that I'm trying to show in my work that sometimes doesn't really always show. And then the other side is like kind of the anxiety side of comfort and like emotional comfort. and like where we go when we want to escape the realities of our daily life. Like, what's these places? I use a lot of symbolism in my work, so I use like symbols for like my happy places. Like my dog is my symbol for finding comfort, because she is a whippet and she is never comfortable.
Nope.
She is made of bones.
All bones.
Yep. And she's always like in search of like something soft. She can never fully get comfortable. She's always like up and like not fully willing to lay down. She won't lay down on hard surfaces, always has to have a fuzzy blanket.
What's your dog's name?
Velvet.
What, did you name your dog Velvet? Or
I did.
Oh, goodness.
I did. I had the name picked out.
You're aware of the irony that is contained in this statement, right?
100%.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, then, that is an excellent metaphor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here for it. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
So, what other symbolism do you use to signify comfort, discomfort, anxiety, peace?
So in a lot of my work that I've been doing recently, I've had the image of the hand as a symbol for myself in the work. So I have these hands in some of the images that I'm creating, either editing, moving things, or like interacting with the work, kind of showing that I have quite literally a hand in the creation of this world. And that I have the control. Another symbol, a lot of symbols that I use are floral or like fauna imagery, a lot of which are based off of Renaissance symbolism. So looking at like historical knowledge or like historical placement of like this flower means love, this flower means courage.
So you translate some of those hierarchies and meanings into your work as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, okay. Kara, oh goodness, what's her name? Previous guest, she did really, really large scale, hyper-realistic oil paintings, and she pulled a lot of symbolism and meaning into her pieces as well. So flower arrangements, bouquets, what these bouquets were planted in. She used a lot of rabbits, and she even stuck some of this symbolism like on cake decorations, because she painted a lot of like table settings, and they're gorgeous and bright and colorful and all the wonderful things, but if you didn't, like, you know, it'd be just a pretty picture if you didn't know how to read it.
Yeah.
So the symbols for those kind of things are really entertaining when you learn that's what's there.
Yeah. I
would have never guessed until she told me, so I was glad I got the inside scoop. So now the listeners have your inside scoop on such things and can read your work a little better.
Yeah, for sure. I've been using also the quilt a lot, both for that physical and quite literal symbol as this like blanket that is supposed to meant for like warmth, comfort, but also the historical like knowledge of what a quilt is this family familial object that is passed down through generations, that is like sometimes even quilted as a narrative, to be used as like, this is the story of our family. A lot of the time also made by women. So that gender aspect of like fiber arts within my work is also important, and is also why I'm thinking about like using felt and printing on fabrics as well. And I'm teaching myself how to quilt. Not fully successful yet, but
it is indeed a craft.
For sure.
Did you ever mess around with painting on velvet?
You've
seen that, right?
Yes, and I have also printed on velvet.
Hey.
And I have seen there's like a technique to where you can lay the velvet on like a wood block or a stamp, and then you iron the velvet, and then wherever it's pushed down, like will create the indent. Yeah. And that looks really cool. I just don't know how to implement it yet,
but it's in the tool bag, right?
It's in my brain, and I'll find a use for it.
I bring that up because backstage at the auditorium, there's a painting of like a really sad clown, I think next to a painting of Elvis, but they're both velvet paintings, or at least one of them is. So that almost shiny texture that you only get from painting on velvet, it's a damn clown. Like it's like up in the corner looking all sad and stuff, but it's a really well done piece. So you're just like, goodness, why is that up there looking all sad? You know, almost hidden from view. But that's the only one I can say velvet painting that I've seen him on an irregular basis in a while.
Mm-hmm.
But God, it's gorgeous. It just happens to have some really funny stuff on it.
Yeah.
My pendant is being all kinds of ornery right now. Goodness. So, outside of those things, do you try to incorporate anything else into your work thematically, or Easter eggs for you, or anything like that?
Yes, I am trying to include more like folklore aspects into my work and art historical references.
Yeah.
So, I'm doing an art history minor here at UT. So I'm taking lots of different art history classes on top, and history has always been something that I've been super interested in, like probably even before I was interested in art. I was like super interested in like Egypt and like old England and like things like that. So learning the history of art and kind of connecting those events to visual aspects, I try to kind of hide little bits of like art history, and then like both folklore and kind of some literature. Like the animation that I'm working on is very like Alice in Wonderland-esque, and has some references to that, but it's also referencing like 70s psychedelic animations that were happening then.
Sold. Very sold.
Yeah, my professor, John Kelly, teaches animation here that I'm taking an independent study with. He told me about Susan Pitt's asparagus, which is pretty funky.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, it's very strange, and it will leave you with like a lot of questions.
I have plenty of questions already, so it's fine.
Okay, cool.
I'm used to having a lot of those with no answers whatsoever.
Yeah, I think it's like a psychosexual odyssey is the
Is that the tagline?
Is the overview of the genre, I guess.
Okay, let's go.
But yeah, so that'll give you most of the information, but like none of it at the same time.
Well, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm here for it. So this is the way your left half and right half of your brain meet in the middle.
Yes.
In your creative output.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Do you ever find any conflict in that? Do you just want to put something in a thing and you're just like, I don't know how to put this in here right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Happens all the time. And I kind of have to like tell my like other side to just shut up and like pick one thing to kind of focus on, because I have like 80 million things that I'm like, I can make something about this, or I can make something about this. And then I have like, especially because the grad school program is very much like you're making art about your like research and your concept.
Yeah.
And I'm interested in so much and like so broad, but
So
I'm trying to like narrow it down and actually figure out like, what am I doing? Like, oh yeah, I'm making work about comfort, and I'm looking up activism about disabilities, and working like artists who also work with disabilities, and that's kind of what I'm focusing on right now. But there's this like little voice that's always in the back of my mind that's like, make work about all the other stuff that you think about. And
and it really comes down to how scrutinous are you going to be about what serves the image you're trying to create for its own self.
For sure. I also just had someone this past week tell me that like everything you consume, like what you listen to, what you watch, what you are reading, who you're talking to, everything that you consume is an ingredient in the soup that is your art.
Yeah.
And like that's been like replaying that I'm like, oh, so there's like true crime broadcasts and like CNN and then like some like dance moms every once in a while, like weird reality TV. There's like
it's a hell of a soup is what you're saying.
It's a weird soup. But you know what? It's working for me. So
well, that's one of the questions I really like to ask is, can you separate your influences from your work, or do the things that you're influenced by get distilled into aspects of your work, and what ratio of your work do you feel is completely 100% your idea versus an idea that came and moved through you? Like that genre of idea is always a really fun one, because some people are really hard on the stance that I cannot separate my work from my influences. My life is everything. It just gets poured into my work. And then some people are on the opposite end of that spectrum and say, hey, you know, I make my work and I have these influences, but looking at the work alone, you would never know that these are my influences or this gets distilled into that. And then some folks are like, yeah, all my ideas are mine. And then some folks are, no, I'm just a conduit. People, you know, think these are my ideas, but I just paint the things that come to me. And most people fall somewhere in the middle of those four ideas, or not too extreme of one end or the other. But I've definitely asked those questions to people, and they're like, oh, hell yes. I do every bit of this and only this, and that's how it goes every time. And it's really funny when people have the extreme answers. Because in my life, it's a bit of a mix. Like the Venn diagram with the four circles is pretty square in the middle.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with like the conduit to where like I wouldn't say like anything that I make is like solely comes from me, because everything is influenced by something, whether it's other artists or whether it's like things I see in nature. Like I made a print last semester about the groundhogs that live in my hill by my apartment that I see every day that just stare at me.
I wonder, who are you and what are you doing here?
Yeah, there's so many. I've never seen so many groundhogs in my life. And they just stare at me. They sit in their little hole and they've got little chubby cheeks and they just stare. So I made a print about it because I was like, I don't know.
That's what's happening in my life. I make art about it.
Yeah. And like in here, especially like when I work in letterpress, so like I work in here 10 hours a week as part of my like GTA position. But I'm also able to create my own work in here, which is really cool.
So outside of those 10 hours, how many hours are you in here?
Well, this week, now that I'm out of, like, in spring break, I'm going to be in here quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because I have a bunch of prints that I've been, like, putting off, and we've been so busy working in the letterpress shop.
Well, it's personal time now since you're on spring break, so you can get some of those things done, right?
Yeah, so I'll be working in here on some posters. We have our print sale for the UTK Print Club is April 10th and 11th. And so that'll be here in this art building those days. And so I'm going to try to make as many posters as I can to sell because I'm trying to...
Yeah, remind me of that too so I can put that on the socials.
Cool, thank you.
Because this will get posted. The publishing date for this should be around that time, so I'd like to give people a heads up before then.
Cool, yeah. It'll be it'll happen at the same time as the UTK pottery and ceramics sale too, so it'll be like a whole art sale in here. So if you want some mugs and some cool prints, and we've got stickers and shirts and every so art.
Here's the place and that's the time.
Yep.
Awesome.
April 10th and 11th, an architecture building, 10 to 5, both days.
There it is.
Yeah. Please come out.
So what, are you going to be selling a lot of personal work or just reproductions of schoolwork or?
Yeah, I'll sell
all the stuff.
I mean, since I'm in school, since I'm in graduate school, all of my work is personal work. Like it's I get to choose what I'm making work about,
right,
which is great. But yeah, it'll be kind of a combination of the stuff that I make up here in letterpress. It'll be some woodblock prints, lino cut prints, and then there'll be other prints from like undergrads and grads that are also in the print program here.
So a good inclusion of most people in the program or in the building.
Yeah.
In general, I guess.
Yeah.
To be fair, I really like this building because if I were to pick an industrial place to make creative things in, it probably would look like this.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. It's very open, which I like. I like all the natural light, especially in here, has really great natural light.
Yeah, there's giant windows in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like the one thing I don't like about this building is we have those floating offices that kind of feel a little scary to be
downstairs in the middle, like where I came in?
No, like if you like look up in the like on each of the floors, there's offices that like overhang.
I'll have to scope that out.
Yeah, I'll show you in a minute. But they like stick out over the center of the building, and they just feel like they're gonna fall. But they're not going.
Fear of heights?
I do.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, no. Like we went in one for like a tour, and I was like, I'm never again.
So you don't like sky bridges either with the glass floors? No.
No.
My son is also not a fan. Don't feel bad.
Yeah, no.
I wish people could have seen the look on your face when I asked that question. You were utterly disgusted.
Yeah, no. I went to Vancouver when I was a kid, and they have the like world's longest suspension bridge. No
go.
I have like that scene from Shrek when they're on like the bridge over the lava when like Shrek is shaking the thing,
and that's just how you are about it.
And I'm Donkey. Yeah.
Well, at least you know to avoid these things.
Yeah.
You can add that comfort to your life
by
actively avoiding these things.
I still sometimes end up in them on accident, which is not great, but you know.
Well, you're grown. You can work through it, right?
Yeah.
You've been there. You've had to deal with it before.
Yeah.
Well, bless. We've all learned things. So where are you pushing your boundaries with your creativity right now?
So right now, this semester, like starting here, I've like fully gone pretty much digital. A lot of the work that I've been making is either photographic and then digitally printed with like large scale Epson. That block that I printed that's over there is a laser cut block. Yeah. So like a digital image that was put through the laser cutter and engraved via laser onto wood.
So did that take all the fun out of it?
It did.
But it's so cool you use lasers.
I know. And it was still fun to print too. So like it looks cool. So like I can accept it. And I'll probably do it again. But it did take the fun out of carving. Right.
So would you carve that design for an alternate print?
I don't think so. I think the photographic element did what it needed to do.
So that's the way it needs to look.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I'm also working on that animation, which is like completely new out of the far ballpark or whatever.
And you said that was a mix of stuff that you're doing on Procreate and carving. So are you drawing the stuff and then carving it?
Yeah.
That's the flow there?
Well, so it's kind of a scene where it starts off as like a 2D animation, like fully digital, that I've drawn all of the scenes and colored them in Procreate. And then it's this girl that like falls into a bed and the bed like eats her. And
I know that feeling.
Yeah. and then she falls very Alice in Wonderland-esque into this dream world that is both anxiety relieving, but also anxiety causing with some different stressors. And then she kind of floats through this world and then she wakes up. So when she falls into, or after she gets eaten by the bed, she then falls into the world that is all made of felt, moving stop motion pieces. So it'll kind of be a juxtaposition of textures. So it'll go from like this very flat world to a very dimensional dream world.
Yeah. I like that contrast a lot. That's a really good way to make that contrast.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it reads. I'm going to be playing with like the colors of the felt and the ink so that everything kind of matches in color palette.
Yeah.
But I'll be interested to see how it turns out. But
how are you going to present this? You said stop motion, right? So it's going to be in a video format?
Yeah, it's all in video. And my ideal presentation, it will be presented onto a quilt that I create.
Yeah.
So ideally it will be projected onto this quilt that has like white, like solid white, so it projects like a movie screen. And then it's in a space where you can walk around it, and that there's images from the animation on one side of the quilt, and then the other side is the animation, so it'll have this like two worlds thing. And so ideally that will be for a show in the fall, hopefully in the 1010 gallery that's downtown. We'll see. Those applications haven't opened yet, but ideally that's the goal.
So are you working on this quilt already?
No.
That's the honest answer.
Yeah, no, not yet. The animation has been the monster that has been taking so much time.
I've done that professionally. I know exactly how much of a pain in the ass it is, yeah.
Yeah, the frame-by-frame drawing has taken so many hours.
Are you doing 24 frames per second?
Right now it's 12, so thankfully it's not. I could not be doing it at 24. That's that would be a beast.
The renderings and animations that I did were all 24 frames per second, but it was all digital, so I didn't have to like go through the whole workflow of making them tangible and then assembly and then all that jazz.
Yeah, thankfully the way I do the stop motion is through an app on your phone. It's like Stop Motion Studio. It's the same one we use here in the foundation classes. So when we teach it to students here, like I already know how to use it, which is nice. But it's also connects to my Apple Watch, so so I can like move things and my phone be on the tripod or on the overshooter, and I can just like tap for my frames and not have to like mess with my phone. It's pretty nice.
Yeah. Very good use of the watch too. Like, good thinking, guys.
Yes, they were really onto something when they added that.
Added that one. Good. Yeah. You seem to really enjoy it.
Yes,
I'm talking very highly of it.
I'm grateful for it. So it has helped me in many a circumstance.
So, do you have any big projects that aren't what we've already talked about? You got anything like boiling in the back of your mind, or like moonshot things you want to try later?
Well, so I am 2 years from my thesis year. So like that show is looming in the back of my mind, what it will be. Obviously it will change and evolve, but it will be the gallery space downstairs. And so I'm very interested in like creating a space in my work. And so ideally I would like to make something that fully envelops people and like brings them in. So something large enough to where it almost fills the gallery.
So you want to do something environmental?
Yes, but like within the box.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if a person is immersed in viewing your art, like every, any kind of immersion, my brain automatically goes to this is an environmental treatment. This is the space that we're in.
Yeah, definitely space making and like sensory experiences. Like my undergrad thesis was kind of an exploration on sound, touch, and some different elements within that. And so kind of thinking about almost sensory overload, especially when thinking about forms of comfort, is how can I make something so like visually comfortable and uncomfortable at the same time. And so that
contrast is hard.
It is.
It's really difficult.
It is. Yeah, this piece that I just did that's digital uses the color Baker Miller pink. I don't know if you know the history of that.
I don't.
So it's this pink that in, I think probably like the 40s or 50s, it had been done a lot of research on it, and it was proven, quote unquote proven, to calm people and make people really mellow. And so I guess the US government said, okay, we're going to take this color that's supposed to calm people down, and we're going to paint all of our prisons and all of our mental institutions with this color. It later had the very opposite effect, and it caused mental breaks, violent outbursts, and anxiety.
Well, when you paint the whole place with it, that's probably too much.
Yeah, so this Baker Miller pink, and realistically, like, I like the color. I love pink. I've kind of adopted like a light pink, a light blue, and a light purple into my like personal color scheme. But now using this specific shade of pink, knowing the historical background, and like getting feedback from other people that like even though I don't really feel the discomfort from it, but like other people definitely do.
And they don't have to look at it for long to know they hate it. Right?
No. And so like during my grad review on Friday, I had one professor that was fully into it. Like, this is, like, I think it's beautiful. And then the next professor was like, I hate it. It makes me feel so anxious, and it makes me feel uneasy. And I was like, that's exactly
those two responses are the contrast.
Exactly what I wanted it to do. So it was kind of a breakthrough in what I'm thinking about. And so kind of stemming off of that is what I'm going to continue doing. But yeah.
I think that's great. Run it. As far as I'm concerned, sounds like you're on the right track.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that was very comforting, having these suspicions confirmed. Like, those two reactions being the thing.
For sure, yeah.
And if you could get those in the same person, then even better, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So how else are you trying to envision this contrast? Colors, what kind of textures visually are you trying to put into these things?
Some people really hate the texture of velvet.
Yeah, they do.
And so that was something that I was playing with in undergrad as I made these books made out of velvet.
Let me hand you this incredibly tactile thing. You're going to hate it.
Right? Yeah. Because it was all about like kind of consensual and non-consensual touch. Like, do you want to touch it or do you don't?
Right, yeah.
And like,
because everybody likes books, but what if the book is made out of something you hate touching?
Yeah, and also it's completely personal. Like, some people have no issue, and some people are like, this is the worst texture. Like, it feels like I'm being stabbed by little needles.
Yeah.
And so that is another thing. That texture is something that I'm interested in, and just making within that space maybe like a bunch of like blankets or quilts or something that involves textures that people may or may not be super interested in.
Can I give you two that I really, one that I like and one that I don't?
Yes.
One that I really love is cheesecloth.
Oh,
so
okay.
I'm really comfortable in the kitchen. I love to cook. Cheesecloth is a material that has very limited uses in the kitchen, but like it's a really loose weave cotton cloth and it's super soft and I enjoy it. One that I don't like, chalkboards. Not writing on chalkboards, but like a perfectly clean chalkboard. If I just like the slate finish, the mineral processed finish, whatever it is, I can just run my clean finger on a clean chalkboard and get the goosebumps. Mm-hmm. I do not. And then like writing on a chalkboard with chalk is that times 10.
Worse, yeah.
I never raised my hand to go write on the board when I was in elementary school.
Yeah.
That changed a lot when I went to middle school and we had a new building with new whiteboards.
Mm-hmm.
I would love whiteboards. I draw on them all the time.
Yeah.
God, screw a damn chalkboard.
This building has tons of chalkboards. And like, we have one in the print shop that I write.
We both kind of wiggle in our seat as we talk about this.
Not a fan. Personally, it's the sound for me.
I don't mind the sound. It's literally just the texture. The sound of like the chalk sound is fine.
No, it's fully the sound for me. So like, I don't know.
Different aspects of this.
Yeah, but the cheesecloth is interesting because we use cheesecloth in printmaking a lot for both intaglio and with litho. We use cheesecloth in like a bunch of different ways. So we've got lots of that. I've got lots of it.
It's just one of those things that if I never use it, I'm just happy I have it in the house.
Yeah, it feels nice. Yeah.
It's really good for helping make syrups. I make a lot of simple syrups. Okay. Cocktails are really cool.
Nice.
So cheesecloth and chalkboards, ironically, both start with a C. Yep. I don't know. If I come with anything else in the route of this conversation, I'll be sure to lay it out on you like
that. Okay. Cool. I personally also really like corduroy.
Ooh, yes. That's good stuff.
So we'll see.
I love micro suede. So the couches, suede couches, oh God. Give me a suede couch. I'll be all over it. But yeah, micro suede and regular suede, corduroy, things that have the fibrous exterior texture but aren't like straight fibers like velvet, you know? That's cool. I like velvet too, but the I don't know what, the less coarse, the woven aspect of it is more fun for me than just having the hairs be on the surface.
Yeah.
Pointed out.
True.
I don't know how to explain that better than that.
Yeah.
If I knew more about fabric, it might be a little different. Have more adjectives for that. So let's switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
Do you have any letterpress printmaking influences, idols, people's whose work you couldn't help to distill into your own a bit?
For specifically letterpress, Yeehaw Press is a press that was here.
Yep.
And then I'm blinking. That's the one that's in Nashville that I am completely blanking on right now.
We'll come around to it. You'll remember it.
I'm going to remember it. Okay. Yeah.
But those are two that...
Those are two specifically letterpress ones. I'm trying to see if we have it somewhere on a poster in here. I'm sure we do. And then Amos Paul Kennedy is a letterpress artist that was here last spring as a visiting artist, but he works primarily in letterpress, and he's the being honored as the artist of a printmaking conference that I'm attending in April. So it'll be cool to see his retrospective work. But he has a lot of activism within his letterpress work, and I really appreciate that, and makes really strong visual and like contextual prints for letterpress.
So politically aware and politically active.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think letterpress has a history of that activism within it, which
for as much as it's been used for entertainment, it's also been used for, the transmittal of information too. Mm-hmm. Like if you want to get back to, like campaign art, mm-hmm. all that stuff, that was just as prevalent in that medium as, anything up until, the 20th century. Like you look at any campaign media from 1940s to the 60s or 70s, and you're going to see influences of this art style in the hierarchy of those images. Big bold text, small graphic elements, name, stars. Like, you're going to get those.
You can even see that in like the Obama Hope poster by Shepard Fairey. Like, mm-hmm. that's very inspired by that as well.
Yeah. So politics and entertainment are heavy in this medium for sure. Mm-hmm. Are there any other avenues of society in this medium that you see it get used for?
Music.
That was entertainment. Like you see a lot of show posters, a lot of flyers, a lot of advertisements for concerts, festivals, stuff like that.
Yeah, I collect a lot of music festival posters. Not just letterpress, like screen print too. Like Status Serigraph is based in Knoxville, and I didn't even know that until I moved here. And I had already had a bunch of their posters.
That was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah. Like I have at least 3 or 4 of their posters, as well as a bunch of other ones of like Bonnaroo, ACL, like mm-hmm. music festival posters dating back all the way to like Woodstock. Like have always been a visual influence in a lot of my work. I don't work a lot in text until like recently, but seeing the way that text can be used is really inspiring to me, even though it hasn't fully like come out in my work yet.
At some point?
Yeah, hopefully.
Because you don't see it not doing that, right?
Yeah, at least like, and now that I'm in letterpress and I'm using type, it's slowly creeping its way into it.
I don't think you're going to escape it.
No, there's no way.
Well, good. Do you have any stylistic influences that are, not particularly attached to an artist or a genre, but just things that you like to see? Yeah.
I like the style of like psychedelic artwork also in those music festival posters. And then also printmaking from like either like Soviet era propaganda, like those types of prints are super interesting to me. And then Mexican printmaking starting from like the 1940s up has this really graphic style, and the way that artists carve is really fluid and mm-hmm. has a lot of line weight, and that is something that I aspire to like continue to push towards in my personal like relief carving style.
So you found some styles you want to push towards in your work. Yeah. Ironically enough, you say those things, and I'm trying to push towards a more like 70s automotive, crazy pinstripey, bright color, metallic flake, mm-hmm. stars and atomic things. Like between the 50s and the 70s for pop culture and automotive culture specifically is where I'm trying to push some of my visual look towards. And I've got a couple examples so far that I'm really happy with. Like nice. I've done a couple skate decks that look like they should have been in somebody's like garage in 1967 or something like that. And I'm pretty okay with that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. I'm interested in like the history of artists. Like the words aren't making sense right now, but how objects can like be passed down through history. Like I love letterpress because like within each letter it has its own history, and it's been in like hundreds of prints, and they're all different. But
yeah,
like
so you could go right here and pick out of this drawer, be like, this V right here has been used in this print, this font is this thing. It was from this place at this time, designed by this guy, used originally here. Like every stamp, what do you call these, dies?
Just like type, like letters.
Okay.
But yeah, they have their scars from when people have dropped them, or like if someone accidentally like hits them with the press or something. Like they have their own signatures, scars, history, and it shows through the prints. And then the prints become their own artifact within history. I find that very interesting. And like prints, that even though they're like these works on paper, print is everywhere. Like print is on this can. Print is on the cans of ink. It's on the coffee mug. Like print is everywhere.
It's on the logos of all the machines we have in this room to make art with. Like,
exactly.
It's everywhere.
Yeah. And so thinking of like print as this mass communicator and using it as a mass communicator is something that I strive to put in my work.
So is that like the scope of impact, or is that a thing that's like just a universal?
I think it's a universal.
Yeah. It's everywhere. So the scope is like, we can walk outside right now and there's letters everywhere. Like there's signs, street signs, stoplights, names of the building across the street. Like there's no way we could transfer one place to the other in society without it. And
it also makes it like underrated.
Oh yeah, too. Because it's so commonplace.
Yeah, people don't even think that like some of these machines are still like around to make things.
Yeah.
Like they don't make these Vandercook presses anymore, but there's enough people in this world that are preserving them and making sure that they're still oiled and that they're still clean and they're usable, that we can still, like artists can use them to make prints. And they're not all like rotting at the bottom of a river somewhere.
Right. Because for every few artists that use these machines, there's one really nerdy, mechanically inclined person going, oh my God, I love working on these. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Part of my summer job is helping to take this press apart and give her a good clean and some TLC.
Fresh grease and oil and all that good
stuff. Some cleaning of all the barrels. Making sure that everything's nice and level, because it's been kind of making a death rattle recently. So like,
maintenance required.
Yeah, someone called a risograph machine a cruel mistress, and the Vandercook is a crotchety old man. We then made the joke that like he's some science teacher, Mr. Vandercook.
So they have personalities now.
Yeah. All of our presses downstairs have names. They're all They're all, I don't know this. He's Mr. Vandercook to me.
Do you have a favorite? If you've named them, is there a favorite?
There's.
Tough one.
That is a tough one. I don't know. I love the Vandercook. Of all the presses, like it's very unique. Like we only have the one Vandercook like this. Like we've got a couple of each press downstairs, but like we just have one of these for right now. We are getting another one, but
but now this is the one.
Yeah, and it's its own special finicky machine.
They often are.
Yes.
What is this an art form you can see working with for the rest of your life? Are you in it now?
Oh, I'm in it. Yeah, I've been in it since probably my sophomore year of undergrad. I took probably my second class, and I was like, okay, I'm hooked. And then I went to a conference. So we have like printmaker only conferences. One of the ones is SGCI, Southern Graphics Council International. This year it's in Providence, but I've been to the one in Dallas and I've been to the one in Madison, Wisconsin. And it's just this like convergence of almost every academic printmaker in the country, every professional printmaker. It's so cool that like everybody that's working in all different forms, lithography, serigraphy, relief, like all of the different printmaking forms all come together, and we talk about like, oh, we can do this with like this machine that we didn't know that we could do, or look at this cool press that I made on a 3D printer, or like all of these different ways that printmaking can evolve beyond like traditionally, or just like fully embracing the traditional as well. Like it's this very old media, but continues to like revive itself. And it's like, there's the whole saying of like, print is dead, but print is not dead at all.
Because you obviously have a whole industry and education funnel with it.
Print is everywhere. Print in academia is like so strong. And yeah, as an art form, like even like artists today, even if you're not using printmaking, you might be even thinking in like a printmakerly way of like repetition, the multiple, or like the artists that you're seeking influences from. Andy Warhol, printmaker, like all of those artists that have gone through time have at least dabbled in printmaking.
At this point, I know quite a few people creative around town. I have found that the logic behind printmaking, the process of, at least, has been permeating a lot of other people's creative workflows. And I have a buddy that is a printmaker, but he'll make his prints and then he'll color them by hand and do different processes to them, to the paper before he prints on them, and how he treats them after they've been printed on. So like that's like the core of his process, and then messing with the paper on the front end and messing with how he paints or colors on it on the back end is, you know, adjacent to the core printmaking process. So I've seen him do cool stuff with it, and I'm happy to see lots of other people use it, or use the ethos of it to do cool things. It's definitely not going anywhere.
No, for sure. Yeah.
So the last question I usually ask people is, if you were to suggest me to have some people in your seat to hear on the podcast in the future, who would they be?
For like local people?
Yeah, well, I mean regional too.
Yeah.
If that's what you got, because the KAAMP is my show and I do whatever I want with it. So I'll interview regional people if I damn well please.
Okay. I would say Ashton Ludden.
Yeah, she's on the short list.
Yeah. She's teaching a screen print class, but she runs Relay Ridge.
Yeah, I know her and Drew. They're good folk.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like pushing some of these grad students that are here, because we're all making work in all different ways. Nissa Collins is a time-based artist here. She's also a first year with me, but is making really cool animations, fiber arts, and is currently making a giant raccoon made of recycled materials.
Told.
Giant
raccoons.
Yeah.
Sold.
Yeah, so definitely talking to her about like her process. Yeah. There's a lot of cool people that are making work. Chloe Wack is a third year in printmaking. She's about to install her thesis show, but she's living here in Knoxville permanently, and so she'll be here making art. And so, yeah. Nice.
So that's a good 2 suggestions right there. If you have social media or a website or ways for people to see your art or contact you about art, what would those places be?
Yeah, so my Instagram is at Shannon Ferguson _art. And then my website is shannonfergusonart.net. And then I do have a TikTok, but I haven't used it much. But that's just shannonferguson.art.
So those are all the ways.
Yeah.
And if someone wants to commission you, shoot you a message.
Yeah.
And otherwise, they can admire all your work in those places.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, Shannon, this has been delightful. I appreciate your time, and thank you for meeting me halfway on this wacky Sunday in Knoxville. And everybody, I'm Thomas Zachary. This has been the latest episode of the KAAMP. That is the Knoxville Area Artist Networking Platform. If you want to support the show, do the things like, share, rate, and turn it on in the car when your friends think they know what they want to listen to. Don't turn on that. Turn on this. And then big thanks to Podnuga for having me on the network. And I think that's it. Oh, buy my art. Buy her art. Buy art. You'll love yourself just a little bit more. And if you buy my art, it helps support the show. So thank y'all, everybody. Have a good one.
Yeah, thanks.